Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode review of the Book of Boba Fett. Today, we're taking a look at Chapter 5, Return of the Mandalorian. So, I don't know what to think about this episode. I'm kind of two minds of this episode, and because of that, I think halfway through this review, my opinion is going to flip. So, looking at this from the point of view of who the main character of this show is, Boba Fett. This was not a good episode. This was not a good episode at all because the main title character of the show never appeared. He got one mention in the last minute of the episode, and that was it. So it's like, where's Boba Fett? I signed up for a show about Boba Fett, and Boba Fett was not in this episode. What gives? It focused entirely on Din Djarin. It's like, why do I care about Din Djarin? He's not the main character of this show. Get rid of him. I want Boba Fett. This is the show about Boba Fett. Give me more Boba Fett. Dang it. So, this was not a good episode of the Book of Boba Fett. And I was really, really disappointed that Boba just didn't show up at all. Like, why just Fennec Shand showing up at the end to recruit him? Why not bring Boba? He's the title character. Why was he not in the episode? It would be sort of kind of like if here's an episode of Star Wars Rebels focusing on Jar Jar Binks. Now, not to equate Din Djarin with Jar Jar Binks. They're totally polar opposite characters. But just as an example, as how kind of random it seems. I'm going to get into that when the switch flips. It'd be like an episode of Rebels where you focus entirely on Jar Jar with no crossover whatsoever with the rest of the show. And then, all right, there's your 22 minutes of Jar Jar, and moving on. Where he was just doing stuff on Naboo, being an acrobat or a clown or whatever he ended up becoming after the rise of the Empire. Because the Gungans kind of banished him again because he's like, you idiot, you're the one that gave Palpatine his emergency powers. How could you? So we know that from the Aftermath trilogy. So it was very weird. It was very. I don't want to say the word. I want to use the word jarring. But it was definitely strange. I felt for the title character and focus of the show not to be in the episode. So yeah, I did not like this episode. This was a bad episode of the Book of Boba Fett. I thought anyway. But now we're going to flip the switch, and here's where, that was my initial reaction whenever the episode finished. I'm like, where the heck was Boba Fett? And I really totally caught me off guard. So now we've flipped the switch, and having had some time to think about it, which is why I like to do these a couple days after I've seen the episode and post them on Fridays instead of doing it on Wednesday, the day the episodes go live, just because I think it's better to have a more nuanced take than to be reactionary, even though that's kind of, it's not really a react, it's a review. So time has gone by. I've had time to digest and think about it, which is why I like posting them a couple days later. So yeah, that was kind of my initial. I wasn't mad at it. I think disappointed would probably be the proper word. It's like, where was Boba? He wasn't in the episode. This is a show about Boba Fett, and he wasn't here. So that felt really weird. But flipping the switch, having had some time to think about it, looking at this as an episode of The Mandalorian, this was a fantastic episode through and through. I really loved it. It was a really, really good episode. And depending on where things go, I think this could also be a really good episode of the Book of Boba Fett. Depending on where things go, because he's like, I kind of thought I knew where things were going based on a couple episodes ago, and I think we're still heading in that direction in a couple areas. But now we've spent an entire episode with Din Djarin, and Boba doesn't even appear in his own show. So I kind of feel like, now it's like, okay, I don't really have as much of an idea of where we're going now as I thought I did. So that's really interesting. So yeah, looking at this as kind of not, and again, for right now, looking at this as not an episode of Boba Fett, but as an episode of The Mandalorian, this is a really, really good episode. because I didn't think we were going to get like resolution to a lot of these plot points or a continuance to a lot of these plot points that we were left off with at the end of Mando season 2 until Mando season 3. Bringing in Din Djarin, I was kind of, as they teased at the end of last episode, I was kind of going, oh, okay, so we'll maybe get a hint towards some of those answers. It's like, hey, Mando, what have you been up to since we last saw you? Stuff. And it would have been kind of vague. You realize he's missing Grogu or whatever. That would have been like it. But instead, we got an entire episode dedicated to answering questions about what Din's been up to since the end of Mando season 2 and where he is currently, both physically and mentally, and where he's going forward. So this is really kind of a nice epilogue / prologue to Mando season 2 and Mando season 3 when we get that, presumably this year. Maybe it's going to be next year at this point, because Boba Fett came out later, so I don't know what they're going to do. Also, Obi-Wan has been filming, so I don't know if that took time away from, because I think they filmed some of Obi-Wan in the volume, if not all of it, like they did with Mando and Boba. So I don't know if that's going to have delayed Mando season 3 any, so we may not get it until next year. But I mean, hey, we've got a lot of Star Wars content coming out this year, so if we don't get any more of the Mandalorian proper until next year, I don't think we're necessarily going to miss it. And in hindsight with that, maybe it was good that an entire episode of the Book of Boba Fett does focus on Din Djarin, because that's our little thing to tide us over until Mando season 3 comes out. So, excuse me. So yeah, I just really enjoyed this episode. This had a lot of good meaty plot character work in it for Din. He just seems it seems like there's been a little bit of a reset to his character, where when Mando started up, he kind of, it's not like he was unhappy, but there was just a little bit of ho-hum about his life, where he's just kind of going around doing his job. He doesn't love it. He doesn't hate it. He's like, it's the job. I'm going to go do this bounty hunter gig and help out my clan of Mandos hiding in the sewers. And then he meets Grogu. He meets Queel. He meets Cara Dune. He meets all these people. He ends up becoming an enemy of Greef Karga, and then and changes over to an ally of Greef Karga. And then he saves Navarro from the Empire, and blah blah blah. And now he's entrusted with this kid, and his life kind of has a little bit more purpose in it. It's kind of seemed like that in late season 1 and season 2. There's a little bit more of an energy to Din, where he was a little lighter, he was a little jovial, he was running around with Grogu. They were having fun, they were doing adventures, they were, he was making quips and stuff. Just, he was really having fun with his little frog son. And now that Grogu's gone, he walks into that meat shop with all the Klatooinians. And he does the, I can bring you in warm or I can bring you in cold. But I don't know. It sounded threatening, as it should. But it also kind of sounded half-hearted to me, where his energy isn't really in it, even as close to the way it was prior when he was a for-hire bounty hunter full time. So I just found that really interesting, that he's like, okay, I'm just doing this to find my clan, dude. So you can just either shut up and come with me or just die. He doesn't care. And then he starts flinging the Darksaber around. He burns himself on it. He almost cuts off his own leg with it. Oops. Got to be careful with lightsabers. And one thing I liked, that Klatooinians aren't a species we see too much of in Star Wars. They were just like background aliens in Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi. I don't think they're in A New Hope. Certainly not in Empire, because there just wasn't a lot of places where you would find them. Cloud City is like the only, because otherwise it's like on the Falcon or on Dagobah or at Echo Base. We don't see any Klatooinian rebels. So I feel like, they were just one of those vast army of Jabba Palace goons that later the Lucasfilm Story Group went, okay, what are these species? Because we've got like 4 different species of aliens here. What do we call them? And then that's how we get the Weequay and the Nikto and the Klatooinians and etc. The Gamorreans, of course. So now we we don't see Klatooinians a whole bunch, but now we've been seeing a whole lot of them in the last couple years. It started with Mando season 1. They kind of were starting to do more stuff, because of course they were the raiders in coincidence Bryce Dallas Howard's first episode, Chapter 4, the Sanctuary. And she returned to direct this episode of Boba Fett, which made sense because she, with the exception of Robert Rodriguez, I'm pretty sure she's the only returning director from an episode of The Mandalorian to also do Boba Fett. I think so. Yeah, that sounds about right. So she did a really good job with this episode, as per the usual. I've becoming very impressed with her filmography from what I've seen of it, which at this point exists solely of Star Wars. But give her her own project. I think maybe she's earned it. Kind of like Deborah Chow, how she did a couple episodes of Mando, and they're like, okay, give her Obi-Wan. So it's like maybe now that Bryce Dallas Howard's done a couple episodes of Mando and an episode of the Book of Boba Fett, maybe they should be going, okay, maybe we should find out what Bryce Dallas Howard wants to be working on her own. So that'd be cool. But anyway, so yeah, we're seeing Klatooinians a lot, which is kind of cool. We've seen them in season 1 and 2 of Mando. We're seeing them here a whole bunch because there's Klatooinians on Tatooine that are some of the gangsters, and now we've got these meat shop Klatooinians. One of them lost his head. And then we see the Armorer and Paz Vizsla again. Paz Vizsla is actually given a name here because in season 1 of Mando, he was not actually named. It was he just had his name in the credits, but his name was actually not spoken out loud. So here they actually make sure to speak his name out loud. And what is this guy's deal? Why does he not like Din Djarin? I am very, very interested in this guy's past. I mean, obviously he's a Vizsla, so he's probably not the nicest of dudes. When everyone comes through the credits and they realize that, oh, big, bulky, armored Mando guy from episode 3 of The Mandalorian, he's a Vizsla. It was like, ooh, that's interesting. But, probably not the nicest guy. He seems to have it out enough for Din. Like, maybe he's jealous that Din was the one that got to go above ground and do all the hunting and provide for the clan instead of him. So maybe there's a little bit of vanity issues there. But they're fighting over the Darksaber, and I get it. I get they're Mandalorians and trial by combat and everything. But Din drops the Darksaber, and Paz picks it up, and he's like, all right, I'm just going to kill you now. I don't care that I have, because at that point he probably could have gone, okay, I've won the duel. The Darksaber is mine, and then maybe Din would have retaliated. But no, he's straight up, I'm going to cut your head off now. I'm ready to just end you. So it's like, what's this guy's deal? What does he have against poor Din Djarin? But of course, then that leads to the great moment, which again makes us feel more like an episode of Mando than Boba Fett, where we get the call back to episode 3, where the Armorer says, have you ever removed your helmet? No. Has it ever been removed by others? No. It's like, this is the way. Now, Din, have you ever removed your helmet? Have you ever removed your helmet? Boy, you better start speaking up. Have you ever removed your helmet? And he just finally goes, yes, I have. Because I wanted to look my son, my little frog son in the eyes. He doesn't give the reasons. But the Armorer is just like, okay, hey, you're out of our super secret club. See ya. So that's really interesting. Part of that, and now him throwing in his lot with Boba, accepting the job to be just hired muscle, basically. And so I'm very, very interested to see where this sets us up for Mando season 3 proper, because there's been a lot of speculation about what Din would do. Would he try to be helping Bo-Katan and her forces reclaim Mandalore? My kind of question is, so this is something I've never brought up until now. My kind of question is, who are they reclaiming Mandalore from? Is it just a thing of they're trying to unite the clans, and that's really all they're doing, and so they're just basically going around wherever they can to find other Mandalorians? But I don't think that's it. Because when Din brings up Moff Gideon, and he's on a light cruiser, and it's like, oh, I think it could help you with your cause, and they steal the Gozanti from the 4th episode of season 2, and that has a whole bunch of weapons on it that they want. So it seems like they are actively fighting someone. But who is actually in control of Mandalore? Because it's not the Empire. The Empire's gone. If the Empire had an actual foothold, a remaining foothold on Mandalore, I would imagine that the New Republic would be on top of that. And they would probably be seeking out the Mandalorians that are left to ally themselves with them to get rid of that portion of the Empire. So, because if the Empire is just hanging out around Mandalore, as completely decimated as that planet is, it's still probably got its Beskar ore buried deep under the surface. That would still be a valuable asset to whoever controlled the planet. So I feel like the New Republic would probably want to help out on that, just so the Empire didn't get a hold of it. So I don't feel like it's the Empire unless they're doing it secretly. Like there is a quote unquote Mandalorian government on the planet, but it's secretly being controlled by like Grand Admiral Thrawn or something, and that's going to be a big tie-in. But I don't know. So I think what would be kind of interesting is if it's the New Republic. If the New Republic has an outpost on the planet, and they're doing this whole we're trying to rebuild and stuff, but maybe there's some unsavory characters that are not going to uphold their end of the deal. And so it does need to be retaken by force from the New Republic, which, if you're the Mandalorians, I mean, you're ready to fight anyone. But I don't know if I'd want to go up against the New Republic, even if, because they're not a fledgling rebellion anymore. They've had time to set themselves up and everything. So that is a question I still have. Is like, who is currently in control of Mandalore? Is it the entire system? Is it just a planet? Because I feel like certain clans of Mandalorians are definitely safe. Like Sabine, we know she's still out there because she and Ahsoka are hunting for Ezra, presumably. That's probably going to be something that's probably going to involve stuff in the Ahsoka show. And Sabine's clan is probably safe if I would have to take a guess. I mean, maybe some of them were on world, but their main base of operations, if I'm not mistaken, is on a different planet entirely that's just in the Mandalore system. I'm pretty sure Cronest, or however you pronounce it, weird word. I'm pretty sure that's on another planet just in the system. I don't think it's on Mandalore proper. And then of course, the Children of the Watch, as Bo-Katan called them, they were on Concordia, which makes sense because they're the Children of Death Watch. And that is where Death Watch was located, at least at one point. So it seems like that after the Maul takeover and the Empire rose, they returned to Concordia because there wasn't necessarily anyone hunting them anymore. So, I mean, it seems like that there's still a number of Mandalorians out there, obviously, as we've been seeing, because for a culture that is supposedly supposed to be kind of extinct and not a lot of them, Din Djarin has managed to come across a whole lot of Mandalorians in his travels because he has his entire clan. The Armorer says that there are others that survived, or Din Djarin's former clan, I guess. And then the Armorer says that there were some that survived. Some, if it was just Paz Vizsla, she would have said just one or none, or very few. But if she said some survived, then I feel like that there's still, despite all the big stack of helmets that Din came across at the end of season 1 of Mando, I feel like there's still probably a good number of them out there. Not that they're going to be happy to see him when they hear from their armorer that, oh yeah, he removed his helmet. So he kind of has forgone our ways. So I am curious to see if Din's going to become more of just a simple bounty hunter, or if he's going to really throw his lot in with a different Mandalorian clan. Like how much of the Mandalorian is going to cross over with the Ahsoka show, except for the fact that Ahsoka was introduced in live action in the Mandalorian. How's that going? And we got our first name drop of Grand Admiral Thrawn in live action. So I've got a lot of questions, and then of course, how does this all tie into the Book of Boba Fett? I'm seeing people speculate, which is one of those things where it's like, okay, you know what, that's a fair point. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but that's a fair point. I suppose it's possible, and that's kind of the idea of Din kind of being the herald of the Darksaber to bring it to who should be its rightful owner, and that being a Fett. Because it's like that maybe they'll reveal some complicated history of that, because in the expanded universe, of course, Boba Fett did end up becoming the Mandalore. He ended up becoming the leader of the Mandalorians, and he ushered them into what is arguably their greatest era of prosperity since the days of the Old Republic, if I'm remembering correctly. A lot of that was detailed in Legacy of the Force. I'm pretty sure that novel, that series of novels. So not unheard of that Boba could lead the Mandalorians, and especially in the EU, it made sense. Um, Currently, of course, in season 2 of Mando, Bo-Katan says, "You're not a Mandalorian." He goes, "Never said I was." And he says the same thing to Din. It's like, "Are you Mandalorian?" "No, I'm just a simple man trying to make his way in the galaxy like my father before me." But, I mean, Mandalorians adopt. That's kind of one of their big things, where they'll take in who they think might fit, to help replenish their ranks outside of the natural way. So, if Boba has, lays claim to the dark saber, and he's trying to build this crime family. It's like, how much different would a Mando clan really be? And then for him to lead the Mandalorians or something like that. I don't know if that's exactly the direction they're going in, but it kind of seems like it's a similar path. So I'm not going to throw my full weight behind this theory yet and go, that is the direction they are moving in 100%, but possible? Maybe, probable, perhaps. We'll have to see. So if that's one of the things where if that is the direction we're moving in, then yeah, this episode was definitely not in. First of all, I've talked about this in Bad Batch. I've talked about it in Mando reviews. I think I even talked about it in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. reviews a while back now. But I don't think this episode was filler. I think we really need to have, or I've even talked about this in Ninjago videos. I think we really need to have a discussion, a long and hard discussion, just fans or nerds in general, about what does filler mean. Because so often people are so eager and ready to throw out the word filler if an episode doesn't meet their expectations or something. It's like, oh, nothing happened. This was just filler. It's like people did that with the 3rd episode of Boba Fett and everything, where this was definitely not filler, because even if it didn't progress the main story of Boba Fett as a character, it definitely progressed Din Djarin's story. So even if it wasn't as I was saying earlier, maybe not a great episode of Boba Fett, but definitely a good episode of Mandalorian, you still can't call this a filler episode, I don't think. I don't feel like, anyway. But, again, going back to that theory that some people are throwing around, if that's the direction we're going, then, putting some more of that history behind the Darksaber, putting Din back on the path to meet up with Boba Fett again, to where Boba could, become the Mandalore, something like that, then yeah, this episode is definitely necessary. Was it maybe a little indulgent at times and really focusing too much on Din Djarin, perhaps? I mean, yeah, it's if the goal is to make sure that Boba and Din cross paths again, then and you do like a little character work with Din along the way, then that's fine. But as much as I enjoyed it, I don't think the episode needed a 5-minute sequence of rebuilding an N1 starfighter and then taking it down the pod race track from Phantom Menace. It's like, that was cool and I loved it. And then getting pulled over by the space cops, the Rangers of the New Republic. That was fun. That was funny. I enjoyed that. But maybe not totally needed. If we could have that, or trade it out for Boba Fett actually appearing in an episode of his own show, I think I would have preferred that. But no, it was still a really good episode. I really enjoyed it. It is just kind of funny to sit here and look at it and go, oh, well, that was Mando season 3, episode 1, nestled right in the middle of Book of Boba Fett. So yeah, no, I enjoyed it, and I'm definitely eager to get back to more Boba Fett action next week. Which also, just really quick, I don't think we'll see Din next episode much, if at all. I think it's probably safe to say we'll see him, but he'll probably duck out for most of the episode and then come back right in the nick of time, and then he'll be in all of the final episode, because if this is a 7-episode series, this was episode 5, then we've got just 6 and 7 left, so we've only got 2 episodes left. So yeah, so very eager to see where things are going. And I will say, we're probably also gearing up for a Book of Boba Fett season 2 as well, with just the way things are looking right now, because with 2 episodes left, I don't know how you can wrap up an entire story and say, all right, that is all the story we wanted to tell with Boba Fett. We will never touch this character again, and, except in like crossovers or cameos or something like that. It's like, I don't know. I kind of feel like there's, at least the way things are right now, there's definitely room where you could do a second season. So, just with the way things have been moving, because yeah, it's been a little slow, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. So. Anyway, that is pretty much it for the review. I don't really think I have anything else left to say. I know a lot of people are going to be going, BD, BD, BD. It's like, yes, there is a BD droid. It was cute as, of course it is. I don't think it was BD1, because if it was BD1, he would have had the red paint. And if it's, it's years later, so maybe the paint came off. It's like, if they wanted it to be BD1, they would have made it totally obvious that it was BD1. And even if the paint had come off of him, you would have seen like little remnants of it, and Pelly would probably have called him BD1, so, or something. So I don't think it was BD1. I think it was just another BD droid. But it was fun to see nonetheless, and his cute little happy dance when the N1 Starfighter, when he was helping Din with the N1 Starfighter, was just adorable. That's just a cute droid. That's probably the best thing to come from Jedi Fallen Order. So anyway, for real this time ending. So yeah, thank you for watching. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Remember to follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Those links are in the description below, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you for watching this Fett Friday, I guess, because it's still going to go up on Friday as usual, but this was more like a Mando Monday on a Fett Friday, but nah. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.